Hi everybody, Gobbo Slayer here, and in this battle breakdown, I'll be representing the Dwarves, and Wicked D will be representing the Beastmen. Normally, this is a very hard matchup for the Dwarves, and I do like the build that I've brought, but I think it needs some improvements, so don't take it as a super superb build or anything. But jumping into the match, it's going to be a very interesting one. We have a very diverse Dowie army here with a lot of artillery. And then from the Beastmen, you're going to see double Cygors, along with chariots and summons and all that good fun. So, start to break down the army here. We have skirmish elements of gyrocopters, just the steam gun variety, moving up to start to harass and scout out for me. And then in the main dwarf box, we're going to be looking at one unit of Iron Drakes, flamethrower variant for the excellent morale debuff they provide. Ekron's Miners, always good to have 3 uses of blasting charges and decent melee stats on a AP unit. 1 unit of regular Miners. These guys are here just to absorb Morgar's Chaos Spawn summon, so hopefully they'll be dying the quick, and then I lose the least amount of gold when a unit that gets low health turns into Chaos Spawn. We've got 3 cannons here, backed up by a Master Engineer, who is going to have the entrenchment and ballistics calibrations and fiery ring of Thori. We just have some dwarf warriors rounding it out in the back, along with a rune lord with the rune of negation and missile resist. Oh, and one more hard hitting unit here, the grumbling guard, paired with the dragonback slayers. Always good to have those guys in an army. So as we move up, we start launching shots in. The steam guns start to kite away from these harpies. We'll go over the Beastmen roster. As you can see, we've got 2 Cygors here, and I think we also have Cygor summons from somebody. I could be wrong about that. We'll see. So it actually works out pretty well for me that I have the artillery advantage, as cannon can or at least 2 cannons can definitely outduel Cygor pretty easily. He actually has Malagor, so he doesn't have Morgar this battle, so he doesn't actually have the Chaos Spawn. And I think that's definitely not the most competitive pick, but I understand it for being able to take Vile Tide, which is still a very good spell. And I don't even remember what else poor Malagor gets, but cannons ripping into the Cygors, and this is the reason that they win the fight right here. Is cannons will actually knock over Cygors, and they can actually get more hits in while they're down on the ground. He is getting some rocks in here and taking out models of Iron Drakes, which I really don't want, but at the same time, I only need a couple of them to actually get the morale debuff that I want here. And the reason I'm going to want the morale debuff is what you're going to see shortly here. These harpies are going to come in, and they're going to be trying to take out my gyrocopters, and you would normally be thinking, why would you bring gyrocopters into a faction that can bring cheap harpies and spam them? And normally you'd be right, but if you can lure the harpies into a fight near your lord who can provide buffs or debuffs, and then get a unit like Iron Drake shooting up into the harpies while the gyros are kind of trying to defend themselves, you can break the harpies pretty easily and then chase them off. So that was my primary strategy here, along with just using the cannons to shoot down chariots and Cygors. You can see he brings in all these harpies for a big fight with my gyrocopters. Right now, they're in a pretty good spot. I popped the Master Rune Negation for big damage resist. It's going to be affecting every unit in this group pretty much. And he's going to pull back the harpies. And I just, try to get steam shots in, because every steam shot I take is going to kill 1 or 2 models. So it's not that bad against harpies, but it's not going to, certainly not going to win against 4 of them. So since I figured he might do this, I had saved my other buff, which is the Master Rune of Oath and Steel, bringing the armor on the gyrocopters up to 160. And now you can see I start to get shots in at them with the Master Engineer and the Iron Drakes, and it just tanks these harpies' leadership, and they're going to have to fall back. And now I get to basically chase them off here. If I'd brought even more gyrocopters, it probably would have worked out better, because I didn't have enough to chase off every unit of harpies. That just broke. We have the cannons continuing to shoot in. You can see they're taking down a Cygor in the distance. It's getting quite low. And against just Ungor herds, these Dwarf Warriors will hold very well. Vestigors, on the other hand, are going to mince through the Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors alike. Ekron's Miners doing pretty well. They are up to 47 kills, so I think they got a lot into that unit of Gore herds over there. And now they're holding the line pretty effectively. And even though these cannons are basically right on the front line, as long as you put them in guard mode and try to keep enough buffer, they'll keep firing. And especially point blank, if I get a point blank shot into this Vestigor herds, or even just drop some more blasting charges on them, that's all going to help me. I'll try to keep an eye on that as the battle progresses. Rune Lord in here just kind of providing some leadership and mucking up infantry units where he can. Dragonback Slayers are in here. Amongst trying to hold back the Ungors and get in on this Bray herd. Since I'm so low on frontline units at this point, I'm also just kind of using them to fight off the Vestigors. We get a point blank flamethrower volley with the Iron Drakes, and this is why you love playing dwarves, right? Just to see point blank flamethrower volleys into armored infantry. It is a thing of beauty, even though I have to pull back very quickly here. Master Engineer continuing to shoot it, up to 20 kills so far. Rocks coming in, but as you can see, they're not doing too great against the cannon. This flank is going well with the exception of this third unit of Vestigors. I've taken out about 1.5 so far. These long and the Grumbling Guard with their good stat line should be able to beat down the Vestigor pretty well, along with help from the Dragonback Slayers and the Rude Lord providing more buffs. Here we have the damage negation buff going off again. And the cannons, it's been 5 minutes now, and the cannons have been continuing to shoot. The gyrocopters still trying to basically just chase off harpies, which is still going to be useful for me. One of the Cygors is broken off. These two Cygors were actually summoned Cygors, so there was actually 4 Cygors in total this game, which is definitely a strategy you can try to bring against the dwarves, as you've seen here. It's a good thing that I happen to have pretty good counter to it in the form of 3 cannons backed up by the Master Engineer. So since I didn't scout any Ungo raiders like the archers earlier, that's why the gyros are just in the back kind of trying to chase off harpies and stuff. Dragonback Slayers up to 56 kills, these Dwarf Warriors at 70, and we're still managing to hold back this tide of Beastmen infantry. There just weren't enough mobile units because the harpies were chased off to threaten the backline, so we were able to hold off the front. And it's been a very near thing. These guys here are just barely holding out against the tides of infantry that the Beastmen have, but it's been enough to keep the cannons and the flamethrowers online. And that's often what these close hard matchups for dwarves kind of devolve into, is these matches where you're barely holding the line against superior fire infantry while your ranged firepower continues to operate, hopefully. The problem is in most games it's just very, very hard to do that. You get some Vile Tides coming in here, but I don't think that one was overcasted, otherwise I would have done a lot more damage to the Dragonback Slayers. He brings, 1 unit of Harpies that had rallied in, but since I have the Slayers here, they were able to peel off. And the Slayers just going to keep bouncing around at this point, up to 62 kills, really just taking out any Beastman unit that comes back because they're fast and they're unbreakable. And they actually hit very hard with a 48 melee attack and 41 melee defense. They can, fight Ungor Spearmen who have pitiful stats and not take much damage in return. It's getting to the last vestiges of dwarfen units though. The Master Engineer up here on the hill going strong, 48 kills, taking shots whatever he can. Grumbling Guard fighting to the last man basically against Vestigors. Rune Lord coming in to swing his hammer around and get what kills he can. Flamethrowers, 2 models left, 48 HP, still hanging in there somehow. The cannons have been firing all game. Not many kills, but again, they've been fighting 4 Cygors, so I'm pretty proud of them. Bray Shaman of Shadows on the Chariot has gotten up to 60 kills. Definitely been an annoying unit to fight, but it is starting to get low, and it is the only Chariot unit. We get some bombs from the gyrocopters who are back from their long crusade, breaking that last Vestigor herd and shooting off a couple more steam round shots. One of the Cygors did rally, but my cannons are still on the line, still knocking down the Cygors, and still with enough ammunition left to take out most of the HP on those big monsters. Not to mention the fact that we have the gyrocopter superiority here. So I try to screen out the Brace Shaman Chariot with my Slayers and keep these last 2 cannons online. Master Engineer's still healthy too, so he would be able to shoot the Brace Shaman and also the Cygors with very good effect, and we'll speed up the battle here as these cannons take their last few shots. With gyros overhead, it is a beautiful dwarven sight. It warms my doughy heart to see. And with that, it's going to be army losses. So what a game. That was a really fun one between me and Wicked D. You can see the ring of dead beastmen defending the hill where the artillery is here as we end the replay. And look at some of the kills. These Bestigors cleaned up against my Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards, and that's part of the reason why this matchup is hard for Dwarfs, because you can lose 2 chariots, but you can also lose the Bestigors, and in a lot of matchups where your infantry struggles, that tends to be a matchup where the Dwarves struggle in general, like if they have to deal with hard infantry and big beasts. 109 kills on the Dragonbacks. They did great as a mop-up unit and holding back what units tried to break through. Grumbling Guard up to 99 kills. And even these Dwarf Warriors, when they were just paired up against Ungro Hordes, did phenomenally. Ekron's Miners did great. Master Engineer up to 50 kills, so he did quite well. You know, probably shooting in at Bestigors and Harpies and things of really good value. And of course the cannons with multiple chevrons shooting into the Cygors. And one of the Cygors, the Cygors did basically manage to take out a cannon or hurt my infantry, but in the end just wasn't enough for the Beastmen. And like I said, this build needs some work, but you get the idea here. You take out archers and light infantry with gyrocopters, and your cannons are trying to aim for chariots or Cygors, depending on which they bring against you. And that's it for this battle breakdown. Hope you guys enjoyed all the pyrotechnics. See you in the next one.